Hello, welcome to a late night lounge here on Latte Firm. It's Friday, the 2nd of May. May is upon us. Where has this year gone? We are well and truly near summer. What a glorious week of sunshine we've had here in London. Welcome to the show. I am so glad to see the back of this week. It's been incredibly challenging for me at work. It's been incredibly challenging for me on the socials. I hate to see some of the reaction around the match day atmosphere, the performance, the defeat, what phase Arteta is in, and the future of the manager. The defeat to PSG and how it's all over. Or is it? Welcome to the show. We'll talk about that. We've got our regular panelists in tonight on the lounge. And I want you guys to just buckle up and take it easy and get involved in the chat. If you're tuning in for the first time, please do drop a subscribe on the video channel. Like the video and get involved in the chat, which is where we shall head. On tonight's show, we'll look back at the PSG game, talk about PSG's dominance and how good they were, and then talk about the return leg and our approach to that. We'll talk about Martin Ødegaard. What has happened to our captain, captain? People have been ripping him to shreds on socials. I want to hear what you have to say about the skipper and how we can get the best out of him again. We'll talk about the matchday atmosphere. Wayne Bele is fired up. He wants to talk about that and what we can do to improve it in future. And we'll end by looking at the Bournemouth game tomorrow. So tune in, enjoy, and let's go straight to the chat. Tamina Ahmed, welcome to the show. Hope you had a good week. Says, hi, FK, how are you doing today? I'm good. I'm exhausted. I've had a really challenging week at work. Like I said, the football's not been great. And we watched those two sets of twats last night going at it. And they're both going to be in the final. It's not a fun time at the moment. Tamina's optimistic, though, about the second leg. Says PSG will be smashed 3-0. Dan, welcome to the show. Says, good evening, FK Wayne and Usman Yembele. Hope you're all well. I'm just happy it's bank holiday weekend. An extra day to prepare for the biggest game of the season so far. I believe, he says. We need you to believe, man. We need you. Also, is there a snack check? If so, I have one Wayne may be interested in. I took some patty mixture, put some curried goat, sliced plantain, and a little bit of rice inside. Wow. Mate, I need to see the images. Get that to me in the DMs on X, and I'll see if I can bring it up on screen. V Vlad says, good evening, guys. We really weren't as bad as PSG as social media has made out. We're still in it. Got to win tomorrow's Premier League game, though. Come on, you Gunners. Yes, we are in action tomorrow against Bournemouth. Oh, Bournemouth. Fun memories. Reece Nelson. Do you remember that? Those were the times. Afsar D Gunner, welcome to the show. Says, evening, FK. If we pick Ødegaard, then sorry, 100% we are out of the Champions League. Pick Ethan Wanyeri instead. Meantime, we will smash Bournemouth 9-0. Easy win tomorrow. Arsenal 9, Bournemouth 0. Afsar, you've had one hell of a week to come up with that. Matt Tomo says, hello from Chicago, the Windy City. I fully believe in the Arsenal remontada. The boys will get the win, or revenir in French. Before the comeback is on. Forder on football. The cultured men. The cultured men are upon us. Vig says, if we score first, we are going through. I believe with Partey back, our midfield won't be so open. 2-0 to the Arsenal. Hashtag Revenir. Matthew Simpson, welcome to you. Good evening, all. The weekend is here. The long weekend here in the UK. Absolutely, absolutely delighted that we are here with a long weekend. Dave's in the chat. Evening, everyone. Not looking forward to Bournemouth. Why not, Dave? Got a feeling everyone's going to be thinking about Paris. Really could do with a win to gain confidence and momentum. It's a really important game tomorrow, not only to secure, hopefully top 2, but definitely top 4. But it's important to have that momentum. Let's get back to winning ways. Go with a little bit of confidence to Paris. Paul James, good evening, everybody. I'm currently in a good mood. Don't spoil it. I'm sorry. I'm going to have to bring him in, aren't I? Try your best not to spoil it, Yembele.
Hey, I'm not going to do that. I still believe. Come on, it's 1-0, people. Let's have a bit of positivity. It's still there for us. It wasn't fun watching those two last night. I thought, honestly, Bilbao would have something for us, but...
Is Nico Williams that guy? Is he that guy, Yem? Are you going to bust 350 grand a week on him?
350 grand's a lot of money. I will say that that's a lot of money for a player who I don't think is at the level yet. He's got a high ceiling, but 350 is what I would expect for a Saka, for Saliba, etc. You have to equate it to the problem is Atletico Bilbao pay out quite heavily, so he's not going to accept a wage cut, but no club will pay that for him.
Well, there's a risk he doesn't even settle in the Premier League. Or he might not even come to the Premier League. Talking of positivity, Terence Tibbs, that's a spirit. Semenyo will smash Arsenal and Arteta still won't buy him. Come on, peeps. Let's pick it up. Hundreds of you watching now live across both platforms. Please do follow, subscribe, get involved in the chat. What household issue will hold Yem up this week, says Ian. Hopefully your daughter is in bed. Hopefully she is asleep. Hopefully she's getting ready for the weekend as he looks nervously towards the door. Matthew Simpson says it's been a weird season. I'm dreading playing Bournemouth, but at the same time, can't wait for us to play PSG. Yeah, what a crazy season. Karen is in the house. Good evening. Hope everyone is well. The Masked Cannon is in the house. Big up, FK. Ødegaard is our latest scapegoat. We're going to talk about Ødegaard, and I'm going to get your thoughts on him, Yembele, because he seems to have. He's having a really difficult season, but let's wait till we get there. Haroon, another Latte Firm Patreon member, says the man, the myth, the legend, F King, Paolo Baldini. Never heard that one, Paolo Baldini. I love that. Terrence, go light, go easy on Ødegaard. Come on, let's not pile on our captain. Raphael catching off, yet another Patreon member. By the way, Patreon members, we're going to give away an Arsenal shirt of your choice tonight. There will be a draw towards the end of the show. One of our lucky Patreon members will win either the home shirt, the away shirt, the third shirt, whatever shirt you want. Someone will get picked at random. If you would like to be part of that community and support the channel, get involved at patreon.com/lattefirm. For the price of a coffee a month, you can be involved in all sorts of giveaways. And we've had so many in the last 4 or 5 months that we've been going. Dan Smith, welcome. Going early with a snack check. Couple of slices of cinnamon swirl bread toasted with butter. Elite. And talking of elite, Wembele, how are you, my man?
I'm good. It was interesting there that the comment said "Don't ruin the mood," and Yem's first thought was, "No, I still believe." He was talking about your snack check, Yem.
I hope he's ready to redeem himself. In fact, let's go because mine's a little bit time sensitive. In fact, I'm going to go first. I've just had a really nice dinner, and I'm going to wash it down with a Solero. The sun is out. You can't. Solero is the most basic ice cream, right? But it's just so top tier. It's top tier. So
which flavor have you got?
That classic, mate. The classic Solero, and it is just.
You know, I do have a soft spot for what's the purple? Like forest fruits, the purple one. Is it?
Yeah, I tried it.
I don't mind.
Can't beat the goat. This is the goat. The goat. Go on. What you got for us, Wembele?
I have gone with one of your suggestions following our fruit conversation a couple of weeks back.
Oh yeah,
and some of Tesco's finest. I can't spill it because it will all rip out. But some there you go, some slices of mango there.
Oh yeah, mango.
It's perfect for this kind of weather. I actually have an additional part of snack check arriving hopefully in about 10 minutes time. So yeah.
What you got for us, big boy? Come on.
I just ordered a slushie, man. I love getting slushies in this weather.
I thought you're gonna get something savory, a little bit of fried chicken, some wings.
No. I love getting slushies in this weather. So mango and slushie for me tonight.
That is an elite snack check. Talking of elite, Hand of Arsenal is in the house. Sorry, he says evening FK screening at yours. I'm going to the screening at the Emirates. And of
course, we're going to the screening at the Emirates.
We are. Do you know that was sold out? Is that the right word? It was it was sold out. Sold out within an hour. Crazy. They didn't even have to advertise. And you, being in club level, didn't even get an invite.
I know. I didn't. We had to be told by Wally because Arsenal didn't tell me. And you know they tweeted about it 24 hours after they'd sold out. So they've royally messed it up somewhere. They've royally messed it up.
Mm.
I think the club marketing department are a little on edge this week, obviously.
Terrence, you're in a bad mood tonight. Says these Jods are always late, probably baking their snack checks. I certainly wasn't baking this, mate, but I am very, very happy. Viggs has just come back on. Nico Williams says, I don't believe he's demanding 350 grand a week. He's on 170 grand a week at Bilbao. I think 200 would be more of a reasonable demand for him. Did you ever see that side video where he's playing FIFA online and he's trying to negotiate with Mbappe? He's like, whoa. Wait, we didn't even negotiate. Wait. Just honestly cracks me up. RM says, good player, Nico, but not a ceiling raiser. Do you know, the funniest thing about all of this is for the longest time, I always thought you guys were going on about Nico Williams, the right back at Nottingham Forest. And I was like, why the fuck would you pay this guy? Honestly. Well, you could argue that it's lack of ball knowledge, or you could argue that I know every Nico Williams there is in the game, and none of you do.
Except his name is Neko Williams. His name is Neko Williams, not Nico Williams.
We have a football connoisseur. Well, let's see what your snack check is, Mr. Connoisseur tonight. What you got for us?
I have got my classic, my favorite dessert. I have got profiteroles from Waitrose.
Okay.
Are they regular profiteroles? Or are they
filled regular, with like regular. You have to go with
they're filled with like pistachio, orange, zest or something.
Just standard. I saw them. I couldn't resist. You know, they're elite.
They are
standard cream
But
filling.
I'm just thinking about how warm it is in your little office room,
No,
with all the
it is.
computers that you've got and cream at room temperature. I'm afraid.
It's not. It's pure. It's beautiful cold.
Is
at
it
the
cold
moment.
out of the fridge?
Yeah.
Okay.
I put it in the freezer actually for 2 minutes beforehand.
Okay. Let me know what you guys are having at home watching a live catch, as Agzilla says. Let me know what you guys are munching on tonight. It is, of course, Friday night here in the UK. JG Gunner says, very healthy snack. That's obviously aimed towards Wayne. Lim Simpson's in the house says, good evening, guys. Ian with his snack check, Quavers and a Kit Kat Chunky. Do you know, I've said it so many times, cheese and chocolate, they just go. They just go. I don't know how, don't know why. They just go. Mohamed Zacharias, being serious, need a big win on Saturday. What else is there? Matthew saying some people said that the advertising for the screening must have organized the Tifo. I mean, the screening was gone very, very quick. Alex says, did I just walk into FK biting a popsicle? Popsicle. Come on. These are not the standards. Solero. Absolutely tremendous. Absolutely tremendous. Yeah, Terran's still going. FK baking a cake for his snack check. Karen says, I was at Sainsbury's today and saw that Pepperami are now doing chicken tikka skewers. So that's my snack check tonight. Chicken tikka pepperami.
Interesting.
That is interesting. Be Fair on Yem says, Dan, that's a quality snack check. Appalash says, first time Yem went with a good snack. Louis having Biscoff biscuits. Louis, you dunking them in tea? Hope you are. I'm in trouble says, hey lads, good evening. Pleased to join you lot tonight. Keep the chat coming. Look, chaps, it's been quite a difficult week. I've been working like lunatic hours, so I've missed out on all the sort of chats. But every time I've sort of logged into social media, I've seen all the knives out, you know, broken cannons, and I mean literally a broken cannon for the Tifo. So people have been talking about our defeat. It's all over. Mikel Arteta, blah 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 blah. You know, Arsenal failure, rah 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 rah. Spurs and United are gonna, you know, shithouse their way through to a really terrible cup final, but they're gonna have better seasons than Arsenal, blah 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 blah. So there's lots to talk about tonight, really lots to talk about, and I'm so grateful that you guys have joined us, and we are going to dive straight in. So as we normally do, let us share the slides, and as I just skip through to the first one, it was of course defeat in the first leg. Wayne, let's come to you first. How have you taken the last sort of 2-3 days in the light of this defeat?
A bit more frustration, really, than upset, disappointment. I've not given up like a lot of our fans seem to have, for whatever reason. But I was disappointed that I feel like particularly in the first 30 minutes, 25, 30 minutes, I didn't think we showed our true abilities at all. I don't think we showed our quality whatsoever. And I think I was very disappointed in that first sort of 20, 30 minutes at how cowardly a lot of our players looked. And I think they were hiding from the ball. They weren't sort of looking to receive it. And it really, really played into PSG's hands. But after that first 30 minutes, I think we were very, very good. And I think a lot of the overreaction to the result has been disappointing, solely because I don't know whether our fans just don't realize how good we actually are, or they expected PSG to be worse than they actually are. This was, to me, solely two very good teams going up against each other. And PSG came out 1-0, but on another night, we could have come out 2 or 3-1 winners. On another night, they could have won the game potentially 2 or 3-0 themselves. It was just a pretty even contest in terms of quality. A few moments here and there that could have gone our way, and it's a different game, but we're not out of it. We've still got a second leg. And if we perform like we did at the Bernabeu, I have no doubt that we have enough to beat PSG in Paris. And it was never going to be easy. Just because we battered PSV and that was easy. And if you set aside the emotion of being intimidated of Real Madrid, the match itself was pretty easy, if we're honest. The emotion is what kind of got our nerves up, but the match itself was easy. We've kind of had it our own way for the majority of this Champions League run, and it wasn't always going to be like that. So it's on us to now bounce back in that second leg, and I think we've got the quality to do it.
Yep, and talking of quality, Mohamed Zakaria had a flake ice cream earlier. There's a few shouts for flake ice creams in the chat tonight. Flake ice creams are so good. They're my son's favourite, actually, and enjoy that. Dembele, your boy Dembele, scored after, 3 minutes on the clock? The worst possible start for Arsenal. especially after we had the Tifo, which was broken, and we'll talk about that later. Then we had the moment silence, and that was a little bit strange. And then PSG just flew out the blocks. And this was not just a random fluke or a random break. This was a move of 26, 27 passes. They carved us open. Dembele ran straight through the central zone, passed it out to Kvaratskhelia, who ran aggressively at Jurrien Timber, plays the ball across. He kind of scuffs his shot, but it hits the post and goes in. And it's a dream start for the French.
Yeah, as Wayne alluded to, that first 30 minutes, we really did see PSG at their best. I thought, obviously we weren't quite there. We could see it. We were tentative on the ball and we were making mistakes. The press was unbelievable. I thought their press for the first 30 minutes was such high intensity and it really did unsettle us. But also thought one of the pieces that one of our good friends, Rohan Jivan, did on the Canon podcast with Alex was that Marino was quite high and left a lot of space in behind, whereas obviously usually now you have Thomas Partey and Declan Rice. Declan Rice is very much knows his responsibility when we're defending and comes back. Marino is not as strong as that and obviously was slow to get back, but he created that space that allowed PSG to get in behind us. And credit to them, they're a quality side. We knew this was going to happen at some point. As Wayne said again, we've had it our own way a little bit. Real Madrid, although they have the quality, are quite unstructured. PSG are not. They're a very structured side, good technicians, good passing, and in Dembele, they have a quality player who is going to cause problems, and he did cause problems in the first 30 minutes. And the goal, while it was the result of good pressing, I think we made our own problems, as we usually do. We were too open. Yes, they had the quality to get through us, but it wasn't Arsenal. I think all of us, every fan in the stadium, could see that it wasn't our standard defensive positioning when we were on that defensive transition. And that's the disappointment that I would have thought Arteta would have set them up to say, look, first 20, don't concede, just stay back. But pushing Marino high up with Trossard kind of left that space open, and it really did affect us. As Wayne also did say, and I keep coming back, he said it rightly. After the first 30 minutes, we did tweak it. Mikel did tweak it. He brought Marino further back, and it created that solidity, and it allowed us to platform to start creating chances. But the damage was pretty much there for the first 30. It could have been 2-3-0 at that point because the press was so good and they were so dominant in that first 20, and it created that uncertainty for us.
Sometimes you just have to recognize a brilliant performance from a team. And we saw this PSG earlier in the season. They came to the Emirates. They were without one or two players, and we beat them quite comfortably, 2-0, Havertz and Saka scoring on the night. And a lot's been made about how Luis Enrique's team has really sort of like grown and evolved over the season. And of course, up until the last weekend, they were on course for an invincible season domestically in Liga. And we can joke about the quality of the league, but you can only beat what's in front of you. And they've brushed aside most teams this season. They're going for a treble now if they can nab the Champions League and of course the French Domestic Cup. I thought that first 20, 25 minutes, the way they were just bopping the ball about all over the pitch with so much ease, their work rate off the ball, we commented a couple of times, every time Vitinha and Neves had the ball and they passed it, they were sprinting to receive the ball again. Like their work rate was incredible. And I thought they flew out of the blocks. And listen, the goal itself, as many of you have said in the chat, 0.09 XG, and he scuffed his shot. I understand all of that. I recognize Thomas Partey wasn't there, and maybe he would have been there in that sort of zone to kind of block the run. I don't know. But at some point, you have to doff your cap and just say, fair fucks. And, Wayne, you mentioned it. We battered PSV. We battered Real Madrid over two legs so comfortably. And, the further you get into this competition, the more you realize that these are the big boys of European football. You are playing against you're in the semi-finals with three of the other best clubs in European football based on form right now. And PSG deserved to be there. Their performance was outstanding. I know the game's not over. I thought they physically dropped as the game went on, and we'll talk about Arteta's tweaks in just a second, but I thought they were dominant. And, we've been watching this team. We've been watching Arsenal for so long. I can't remember a team doing this to us, certainly since, Arteta's sort of since Arteta sort of took us over. Like, they were absolutely dominant. And there's an image here, courtesy of Opta Analyst, that really sort of reinforces that. And I want to share it because this shows PSG's, I guess, zones of control, they call it, where they've had more than 55% of touches in a game against their opponent in those positions. And like, it's everywhere. That is how unbelievable they have been in this season's Champions League. And Luis Enrique, of course, deserves so much credit. You know, he's had the Barcelona education. He was a top player. He's obviously a good coach. And he's taking this team and he's got them working like a team. You know, they had the Neymar, they had the Mbappes, and they had individuals. And, you know, PSG were often accused of, you know, just going out and buying these superstars. And I know, you know, Enrique's not spent, you know, thriftily. He spent very, very generously. But he's got them playing like a team. They are playing for each other. They are playing with each other. And they are playing like a hungry team, a club that's never won the Champions League. This means the world to them. And I thought they were phenomenal in that first 30 minutes. And I think Mikel Arteta deserves a lot of credit for, you know, he's been quite coy about it, hasn't he, in the press about, you know, what was the change that you made, Mikel? Well, I can't say. But he did make a change. And the flow of the game did change, as we know, because for the rest of that sort of game, as I just bring this up, courtesy of the BBC, tactical tweets. That was our stats sort of as the game went on. So that first, you know, 0 to 20 minutes, you can see we're in yellow. Possession. PSG had we had 23.7% of the possession. So that means PSG had 75% or more, three quarters of the game. 3/4 of the possession. Sorry, my maths is going wonky. I'm trying to look at the slides and the show. Our passing accuracy, you know, 2/3. Our passing accuracy is normally 80, 85 plus. And just, I mean, everything about it. So Arteta made a tweak. He made a change, and we were much better in that second half, certainly. And we grew into the game towards the back end of the first half. He deserves a lot of credit. But listen, I'm not going to challenge you guys. I think you're absolutely right. We're lucky that we're not 2-0 down, 3-0 down, because it became a bit desperate, a bit chaotic towards the end. And I'm glad that it's just 1-0. But I've seen enough to suggest that I think we can do damage in the second leg. Wayne, what do you make of the tweaks, I guess, that Arteta made and how we grew into the game?
I think whatever it was that he saw was something that went in our favour. And I think one of the big things that it helped us do, particularly in the second half, and I think a lot of that came alongside the sort of physical decline of PSG, was start winning more second balls. And I think in that first 25, 30 minutes, PSG were just getting everything. We would go long. Obviously, we don't have the Havertz, Mikel Merino up front. So we couldn't kind of hold on to the ball. We didn't have that target, that hold-up player up front. So it was kind of just bouncing back and going to PSG. And the one thing that you saw with PSG is that they've got technically gifted players all over the pitch. They did not care whether they had a person sort of really pressuring them. They did not care whether they were being double teamed. They wanted the ball. They were taking the ball to feet. And even if they just knocked it back, they were just always willing to receive the ball under pressure. And at times we didn't have that in that first 30 minutes. And I think with the changes, if we did go long, we were winning more of the second ball, which then kind of allowed us a little bit more confidence. It just gave us a little bit more time to breathe. And I think one of the big things that we saw tactically as well was we started to allow our players to run with the ball a little bit more. We saw success. Both of our chances came really through physical, dominating runs through the middle of the pitch. Declan Rice created for Trossard by running straight through the middle of the pitch. Doesn't matter whether he's 6 or 8, he's got the ability to do that. Created the chance for Trossard. Miles Lewis-Skelly was phenomenal on the night. He was probably our best player. And he done that for the Martinelli chance. And if you look back at PSG, PSG's defeats, especially against Aston Villa in the quarterfinal stage, that's what troubled PSG the most. They're brilliant when they're kind of passing it around. They're brilliant with their pressing. But if you run through them and you run at them, they're not the most physically imposing side. You can create chances through that. So I'm hoping that heading into the second leg and with all of our players hopefully at 100%, no suspensions, we should be able to put out our best squad in that Paris game. You will see Miles Lewis-Skelly, you'll see Declan Rice from a more advanced position now because he's not playing deepest, be able to do that. And that's what he thrives at. That's what he done so well in both legs against Real Madrid. And that's what we need to be able to counter the ability that PSG have. Look, they're still going to create chances against us in Paris. I have no doubt. But I trust our defense. I think we've still got the best defensive structure in Europe, especially when we're switched on. So it's just about how can we now optimize using those changes that Arteta made in that first leg. What can we do to optimize our chances to go through? And like you, I'm glad it is only 1-0. We only need one goal to not go out, if that makes it. Like, it's going to extra time, potentially penalties. All we need is a 1-0 win, and we're not out of the competition at that particular moment. So, yeah, I just hope that whatever changes we saw in the first leg, we can implement that from the start of the game, and hopefully get a little bit more power through the middle, because that's where PSG looked weak.
Evening Donald, he says Vitinha is the key player to nullify. It's funny, isn't it? Vitinha couldn't get a game at Wolves for nothing, and now look at him at PSG just tearing it up. MLS should be used to shut him down in that second leg. Terrence says Marino up top. I'm in trouble. Says let's see how they handle Rice playing in the number 8 in that return leg. We shall see, of course. Alex saying Wayne is exactly right, and Rice having to play at number 6 neutralizes his ability to carry. He'll be a lineup. Marino, a lineup, we move. That is, of course, because Thomas Partey will return to the team and they will move up the pitch. Mikel Arteta described the game as a game of phases. So this is courtesy of Opta the attacking threat chart. You can see PSG were quite clearly comfortable in that opening sort of 15, 18-ish, 20 minutes, whatever it is. And then we grew into the game slowly, didn't we? I mean, we tweaked it. You've just seen the stats courtesy of the BBC, and we finished the half really strong. It was almost a shame that halftime came.
Yeah, and we've already discussed this. The physical decline of PSG was quite stark. From the first minute till the 30, they were absolute machines. But I think they overplayed their hand at that point in terms of their physicality. They're also, as you mentioned, not physically, as in, strength-wise, the greatest. They are a technical team. They're not going to muscle you. And what we started doing was to impose our physicality. We started being a bit more strong at the tackle. I will also say the referee did not help our cause that evening. Very minor fouls were being pulled up for nothing. I know it's in Europe, but it just felt like it was a very bitty game that PSG used to their advantage. And one of the incidents we'll talk about probably is the one on where Donnarumma just literally fell to the floor on his own. And I think PSG realised that the physical nature of Arsenal and the Premier League, it helps when you're having to go 0 to 100 pretty much every minute within the Premier League. I think that's what the difference was, that they started to drop off and we started to impose ourselves. I do think as well that the comment about Rice in the 6th was pretty accurate. I think the lack of forward runs really did hamper our ability to press more onto PSG. And it's a shame that we couldn't do anything in that first 30 minutes to escape their press, because I think with our more balanced midfield, we would do so. And I think having a Marino up top certainly would have allowed us that escape plan of a long ball, because I don't, correct me if I'm wrong and feel free to say otherwise, but I thought really when we threw the balls up to Mikel Merino or any kind of physicality, and they struggled with that. Even Trossard was winning physical challenges, and Trossard is not known for winning physical challenges. It's deeply frustrating, because I think the problem was that we gave too much respect to PSG. And one of the examples I'll give is Jurrien Timber, who was absolutely schooled in the first 30 minutes by Kvaratskhelia. I've never seen that from Jurrien Timber, who's usually very dependable. But once he figured it out, once Kvaratskhelia started to drop off, it was pretty much non-existent through the second half.
I got to ask one thing. You just got me thinking. You say we showed them too much respect. I think that's really easy and lazy sort of narrative from a lot of people. Not you specifically, but I hear it a lot. Arsenal show them too much respect. At what point do you just say PSG are unbelievable? Like, they played so well. Like, I know we've got injuries. I know we didn't quite come out of the blocks. Like that first 10, 15 minutes, it felt like the boys were just sort of getting used to the fact the party wasn't there or whatever. But like, at what point do we just say, do you know what? Fair play, PSG. You absolutely blew us away that first 20 minutes.
No, and you have to give credit to PSG. They're an outstanding team. They have amazing players, and some of the play through the first 30 was scintillating. You have to doff your cap there. what I'm talking about in terms of we gave them too much respect was what I saw was a very tentative Arsenal. You know, players like Saliba, Declan Rice were worried about receiving the ball and moving as they usually do. It was very much, we're worried about this press. We're worried about what's going to happen to us if we lose the ball. And I think that's where, my comment about giving too much respect. Granted, they are a fabulous team, but we should be able to, we've played this game enough that we've played the passing out game and all of this and know when to put it long. I think the worry is, as you said, we'd had a reshuffle because of Thomas Partey's suspension, and we will know in the second half if it was as big a miss as we suppose it was. But it's frustrating because I just think that in that first 30 minutes there was an opportunity for us to show more than we did, and I think that's what hopefully it doesn't mean anything in the whole context of the whole tie. But if it does, that's going to be deeply frustrating. I know Arteta's going to find it deeply frustrating because if you look at that, field tilt, the rest of it, we were dominant. And that's the problem that we have. Again, this is coming back to a problem that we've had all season. Although we have scored goals, are we really a side that, like Liverpool, will be able to score goals at will and create chances? We are very much a heavy build-up, heavy possession, heavy recycling, and it'll take us a good 10 or 15 minutes, 5, 10, 15 minutes to create a number of chances. We don't do a direct game necessarily. We have a slow build-up, and that's maybe part of the issue that we had against PSG, that when they scored the goal, they dropped back quite significantly, physicality, physical nature, etc. But we struggled as well to start creating chances, and also our clinicalness in front of goal is still a bit of a problem for us. And I hope it doesn't bite us, and I hope that we can find something in the second leg, because we absolutely need to find that clinicalness.
Well, we did miss a couple of big chances. Of course, we had the goal disallowed from Mikel Merino. It was offside, the semi-automated graphic showing that. Gabby Martinelli, someone's put around a compilation of his last 40 shots for Arsenal, and it's not looking good, bruv. And Leo Trossard, who at first, when he shot, I was like, oh my God, this is a Liverpool regen, like just smashed it in bottom left corner. Donnarumma gets a big hand to it to kind of just tip it round past the post. Desperately unlucky. And then I found or realised, or I was told, that Trossard scuffed the shot. But yeah, 2 big chances. And you know what? When you get to this stage against these sorts of teams, when you get a sniff, you got to go for the kill and you've got to bag it. And hopefully it's not going to cost us too much. By the way, Vig's just saying PSG ran out of gas. Their tempo dropped as the game went on. We couldn't capitalize on it. And listen, that's something that Mikel Arteta is going to have to look out for in that second leg, because I think PSG are going to come flying out the blocks again. It's going to be that home environment. They know they're 1-0 up. This means everything to them. It means as much as it does to us, but for them. And we need to ride those waves and be calm. I think towards the end of the game, it just became really chaotic. And you can see that PSG obviously had a couple of sort of hairy moments in the middle towards the back end of that second half. And we did finish strong. But it was like we were trying to play it out in 90 minutes. We've got to be calm. And while it could have been 1-1, it could equally have been 2 or maybe even 3-0. Wayne, we do look forward to the second leg. Mikel Merino has come out talking about a remontada or a revenir. He says, I think we're going to go and win the second leg. Very confident words from the Arsenal camp. We'll talk about the Barca Inter Milan game in a second, because what a phenomenal match that was. How are you feeling about the second leg, Wayne? Are you sharing Mikel Merino's optimism?
I wouldn't go as far as saying I think we're going to win it, but I'm not down and out about it. I think we've got more than an outside shot at doing it. And I think, like I said, we're a really good side, and I trust in our ability as long as we're not stupid. I think a lot of the issues that we've had, particularly under Arteta in these kind of scenarios, obviously this is the biggest of the biggest, it's the Champions League semi-final. The issues that we've had are playing the occasion more than playing the match. And a lot of times we've kind of been blown away, or we've been really, really poor because we've played the occasion. I hope that that's not the case now. And I really don't think it will be, simply because I think we would have taken a lot from our trip to Madrid. Like you mentioned, against PSG, they'll probably come flying out the blocks in that first couple of minutes. Real Madrid did the same. They scored a goal that was offside. It was way offside. It wasn't even close. But you could have, in that moment, really kind of wet yourself, really. The crowd were proper loud. Mbappe's coming at you. Vinicius is coming at you. They scored an offside goal. it would have been easy to crumble, and past Arsenal sides probably would have crumbled. But I don't think we've got that in us anymore. And I'm hoping that we take from that and we don't see what we saw against Bayern last year away from home, where we were quite timid and we were really disappointing and we just didn't show ourselves at all. And PSG aren't in the Champions League anyway. They're not the most solid, sure bets when it comes to winning situations that they probably should be. They're fantastic. I love Luis Enrique. I love the football that they play this season. I think they're a brilliant side. And if they make the final, they're fully deserving of it. But PSG as a club, where Arsenal are labelled with this bottlers and whatever mentality, in Europe especially, PSG have that. They were the team that under Emery, Barcelona came back from the most unreal situation. Everyone screams remontada basically because of that game in football. And there are other games where PSG had looked like they should have won the game, and they just haven't. And if you think about the past two ties, Aston Villa beat them at Villa Park, and although Alisson had a wonderful game and kept Liverpool in it, Liverpool beat them in Paris. So there's absolutely no reason why we can't, because in my mind, especially when we're playing at our very, very best, we're a better side, or can be a better side than both of them.
I'm in trouble, says PSG were better on the night. I'm not convinced that they're better than us. Donald says PSG are organised like dedicated beasts. So they had 66% possession in that first 30 minutes. However, they scored early and never got close to scoring that second goal. A few of you have gone on to talk about how the Barcola was offside, and VAR would have ruled out Ramos right at the end as well. There's been a lot of chat about, just final sort of take on this game before we look at Inter Milan, of course, the atmosphere that Wayne wanted to talk about. Substitutions. Now, I was frustrated that Saka was left on the pitch even after sort of 70 minutes. His slush has come, he's happy. Bukayo Saka looked exhausted, and I noticed that he wasn't dropping as deep and working as hard off the ball as he does, and obviously he's working his way up towards fitness. But Ethan Nwaneri came on right at the death, as Afsar said. Ethan Nwaneri came on the 90th minute. Why? And who was it? Matthew offering a counter saying, I'm not sure criticising Mikel for not making subs is right. That bench was so weak. Where do you stand on that? Should he have made changes much earlier?
What kind of changes? I mean, look, we're all crying out for Ethan Nwaneri, but the fact is for the, he's had a remarkable season by 17-year-old standards. He's scored a number of goals and he's had very good performances, but he has dropped off because he's a 17-year-old. He can't be expected to do week in, week out. I think in the last couple of games when he's come on, he hasn't really shone that much. He's a very good player. We all know that, but you have to give the boy time to grow. I think in this kind of game, if you had brought him on with 25 minutes to go, I don't think you would have seen much out of him. I think this game was just, it's such a big occasion. There has to be a kind of mentality that you have when going into these games about how to work and how to track back, how to organize yourself. I think Ethan is still learning a lot of those, and I think that's why in a lot of the European games, Real Madrid, etc., Ethan wasn't used. I think Arteta knows his abilities, understands what he can do, but there is a limit. He's given him the chances in games that he feels he will benefit from. But the PSG game is a massive, massive game, and it's very hard to bring in a 17-year-old who is very good, no doubt, but is still learning the game massively, and he could have got lost in the pack, very easily. I think Saka, again, even at 65, 50% is still better in those kind of games because he still can create something. He wasn't, though it was clear towards the end he was struggling a lot, but the moment, you're looking at moments, and Saka is very capable of making those moments. He's, there was a few minutes of he could pass the ball very well, etc. We saw where he did get very tired and he started misplacing passes. But for me personally, if you're going to, in this game of this magnitude, at this point in time, Ethan is not ready for it, in my opinion. I think there's a marked difference between Ethan and Miles. Miles is a year older, but in terms of mentality, there is a difference, I think, physically as well. I think Miles Lewis-Skelly is a beast. He already is. He's so physically strong. Engine like anything, positioning very well balanced. I think Ethan is still learning. He's a very mercurial talent, but there are issues in his game, which is natural at a 17-year-old. He's not a savior. He's not going to save the game completely, because when he's come on, in a lot of games, he hasn't really done the business. And that's because, again, he's 17 years old. There's a lot of pressure on him. I understand that. But this game, I couldn't see where he was going to have so much influence that he's going to win us a point, etc. Get a point for us or get a goal for us, etc.
I think it's also quite difficult to expect a young player to come and make the difference up top against such an elite team. When you're in a defensive position or maybe even in central midfield, maybe you can get away with it. But as a young player, when you're chasing a game, when you're chasing, trying to get a result, to just whack in a 17-year-old and hope for the best, it's maybe. I mean, obviously Arteta knows best, but I wasn't surprised.
I will also say, look, this is a significant issue for us next season, and it has to be addressed. The bench was god-awful, was absolutely awful. And I know we've got injuries, but it cannot be this way next season. We need a winger desperately who is going to be able to either play and rotate through with Saka and Martinelli, but we need that option off the bench. Trossard is not it. Trossard is a good player, but he's not. We need pace as well. Pace changes games, and we don't have that. Who do we bring on? You're saying, yes, either Wanieri, but that was like the last desperate throw of the dice. Who is the quality? Where is the quality that is going to change it? And we have to address that for next season. It's very clear. Even if we do, fingers crossed, win this, we have a massive gap in our tactical ability off the bench.
Sam says, this is why I thought it was insane when people were calling for Ethan to start whilst Ødegaard was out. It's a lot of pressure on a youngster. Wayne, by the way, what flavour slush have you got?
I don't know what flavour is the ice. A mixture of blue and red.
Is it a mixed berry? Is that the tango? Is that the tango one?
The blueberry raspberry combo.
Yeah, blueberry raspberry. They call it blueberry raspberry, but it's just like syrup, isn't it? Like
it's just sweet with sweet. Sweet and sweet equals sweet.
It's just red and blue. Red and blue drink. That's what it is.
Brain freeze incoming. And talking of brain freeze, what a game we saw at not the Camp Nou, the Barcelona training ground or whatever. Where did they even play?
Are they playing at the Espanyol ground no?
That's a terrible slip. I've just called the Espanyol, who are their rivals, Barcelona's training ground. But listen, what a game. I mean, from the very get-go, Wayne, just sticking with you for a second, Inter Milan flew out the blocks, 1-0, 2-0, and then Yamal scored a great individual goal. Rafinha was on fire as well, and obviously the game's ended 3-3. I didn't want it to end. What did you make of that?
It was phenomenal. It was really, really entertaining. It's I'm glad that we didn't have to follow that, because the other way around would have been a proper disappointment for the neutrals. But no, it was a brilliant game. It was a really brilliant game. But do you know what? Funnily enough, I spent most of the game thinking from an Arsenal perspective, and I know we're not in the final yet. We've got a lot of work to do to get to the final. But every time Inter threatened from a set piece, I'm like, "Oh, give us Barcelona." But we'd give him trouble. Or any time that you saw Yamal or the PSG attackers do something, I'm like, Saka would have some fun against that Inter defense. And for all of the sort of the praise and positive comments that we've made about Inter, and the fact that they're one of the best sides defensively in Europe, they didn't look it against Barcelona. So you kind of feel if we do go up against them, then we've maybe got a bit more of a chance than we were thinking about. But no, for the neutral, it was an absolutely amazing game. 3-3 was fantastic. There was some beautiful football on display. I think everyone rightly is praising Yamal, Rafinha, but the performance of Pedri, every time I watch him,
what a player!
Every time I watch him, I'm just in awe of just how special he is. And that's the type of player that you're never going to get a Pedri just kind of drop into your lap and or sign for your club for very, very cheap. But that's the type of player I would love us to have. Someone who is capable deep, someone who is brilliant at bringing it forward, someone who has that creativity through all phases of play. And yeah, he's just brave in every situation. He's phenomenal. He's phenomenal.
It's another trait that the players have, which is he gives the ball and he goes. He just does not stop running. He gives the ball and he finds himself space. He's sprinting away, trying to always be an option, always calling for the ball, always wants to be on the ball. I love watching players like that. It reminds me a lot of me at Power League. I mean, just effortless, absolutely tremendous. The skills, the composure, the calmness, the vision. Wow. Yamal. Yamal. Let's talk about Yamal. JG Gunner says Yamal is unbelievable. And listen, I heard questions today from Gary Lineker on his podcast saying, if Barcelona win the Champions League and if they do the treble, could he be the youngest ever Ballon d'Or winner? And wouldn't it be funny for Mo Salah not to get it? But what do you... I mean, what is there to say about this kid? The boy is 17 years of age and he's ripping it up every week. And let's not forget Rafinha's contribution. This guy's got something like 40 or 50 goal and assists this season. I mean, that was a guy that we were linked with, and he sort of showed glimpses of brilliance in the Premier League when he was at Leeds, but now he's ripping it up on the top level again. But just talk to him about Yamal.
I don't think there's no real words to describe it in terms of his natural ability. The way he glided through, 3 or 4 players before curling at top post. I think everyone was just in awe of it. It's such a rare talent. And, you look at Leo Messi, those kind of talents, it's kind of scary that Barcelona have got this second coming of Messi almost. He's got that ability within him. He's so clinical as well in the box. It's for a 17, we just talked about Revenir and how good he is. But you have to be honest at the moment. Lamine Yamal is a level above him because the facts don't lie. He's playing with Spain. He's won with Spain. He is absolutely destroying defenses given it is the Spanish league. But you can't deny his rise. It's astonishing. He's also very level-headed. He's not an arrogant player either. He understands that he's still 17. He's got a lot to learn, but his natural ability is actually, his ceiling is really scary in terms of what he could be. Rafinha again has been a phenomenal player for them. I think it's crazy to think where he was. He's playing for Leeds, and now he's absolutely destroying teams in the Champions League and in La Liga. It's again, I think we're slightly jealous of Barcelona in that this is a club who literally cannot afford a lunch probably at the moment without pulling some levers, the lunch lever to get the money. Yet they've got these talents that, you've got Pedri, you've got Gavi, you've got Lamal, you've got Kabasi. And they keep producing these talents. You can't deny that the Masia is probably, pound for pound, along with Ajax probably in terms of generational output, probably the best youth system.
Sorry, what?
You have to. Haaland has been good, but La Masia, if you're talking about, and obviously we've got world class talents, but to get Messi, he came from Argentina, but Yamal as well. 2 in a generation, in 2 sequential generations is crazy, unreal, and it's, Barcelona. I don't know how they fund this club. I honestly don't. I've always said it on Twitter and all this. This club should be like literally falling apart now, and it's because they've got these talents that they've just made it this far. I think without them, they would have really struggled, and it's crazy that youth system, how much it has inputted into that club, which it should do. Every club should have that kind of youth system. You want your youth players coming out, and we're so blessed as well. To your point, Faisal, that Haaland is starting to produce, and we hope for the next one, which we already know is obviously Max Dowman will be a fixture for us and can do what he's doing in the under 18s, etc., because it's phenomenal as well. But the rate at which Yamal is growing and playing next season as well, his body is changing as well. He's going to become stronger. He's going to become more, better stamina. He's already a beast, but what he could become is, quite special. And to Wayne's point as well, Pedri, what a phenomenal player that boy is. He's done it since day one. It's not like he's been, he's grown into this. He's been phenomenal from day one, and it's
what's funny enough though, FK, just going back to your question about sort of Ballon d'Or, and there were obviously individuals in the chat talking about Yamal, Rafinha, Pedri. I think we're kind of overlooking the fact that based on this season, this year, we're going up against the Ballon d'Or contender ourselves. And Dembele, he's in that conversation.
Oh yeah,
he's been phenomenal this year in a position that he's not really a striker, but he's playing through the middle. He got obviously the goal against us in the game, and I imagine we will have a lot to say if we knock him out in the second leg. He probably won't win the Ballon d'Or. But if we do go out, we're going out against a team that has a Ballon d'Or level contender. I imagine if you're looking at the top three right now today, you're probably looking at out of Rafinha, Dembele, Yamal, Salah, and probably Pedri. So I think it doesn't have to be overlooked how good Dembele has been this year as well.
Indeed. What a couple of second legs we have lined up. I mean, it's difficult to call the other leg, but Inter Milan being at home and the way they're going in the league, it could all crumble because McSauce is tearing it up in Napoli, or Simeone Inzaghi might lead them to a Champions League final. And of course, Arsenal go to Paris on the Wednesday night. That's going to be screened live at the Emirates. You've got to have a ticket to be there, by the way. You will be turned away at the door if you don't. But enjoy it from wherever you are watching from around the world. It's going to be a cracking week for Arsenal. We've got a weekend to look forward to it. What can I say? Right, still to come. We are going to give away an Arsenal shirt to one lucky Patreon member. If you are a Patreon member, your name will be in the hat, and I've got the little whizzy round draw thing that we'll do right at the end of the show. Still got time if you want to sign up to be part of that community. It's a small community, but it's growing. If you want to chuck your name into the hat for match tickets and ticket giveaways and shirt giveaways and other things, get involved. Patreon.com/lattefirm. For the price of a coffee a month, you can support the channel, which is great, but it's all about giving back to the community. We're also going to talk about Bournemouth, and we're going to talk about the skipper, Martin Ødegaard, who's coming to a lot of pressure. Talking of pressure, the Arsenal fans, the matchday atmosphere. Wayne, you wanted to talk about this. I'm going to let you lead on it, but just to kind of, I guess, set the scene. Mikel Arteta, as we all know, asked for everyone to bring their boots and bring their socks and bring their kits and bring their voices and, you know, sing till your lungs hurt, etc., etc. There was the rooftop Tifo gate, which, of course, involved Arsenal turning down the Ashburton Army's ideas of having their own banner. We then decided to, and that's the image on the right-hand side, courtesy of the official Arsenal account, the official Arsenal photographer. That is what the Tifo looked like from their perspective, and that is what they have tweeted on the timelines, and it looks lame. What do you want to say about this, Wayne? And let's spark the discussion.
I was so disappointed with the fans on the night, and I was so disappointed with the club as well. Just to start with the club, look, I appreciate that there are turnaround times that are not easy, but to kind of shut down not only Ashburton Army, because that's all we kind of heard. They put out their statement and done it in a way that I didn't quite personally like. It was there to kind of make the club look bad, but you found out after the game, Red Action Gooners, who do phenomenal work with sort of fan engagement and putting forward ideas, the club kind of rejected their ideas and their conversations as well. And you didn't hear about that until after the game, after the fact, and after we'd seen what the club had done. So I was incredibly disappointed at what the club had put forward, because if you compare that image that we're looking at there to the image of the Real Madrid game, something as simple as a red and white bag on a certain seat somewhere in the stadium, alongside the Thierry Henry Tifo with some fireworks, I thought that was phenomenal. It didn't need to be anything overly elaborate. I think it didn't need to be anything too fantastic. They could have just done that, the exact same thing, and I think most people would have been happy. This full-size top-to-bottom Tifo was crap. It just was not well thought out, and you can't reject a fan group's idea and then do that. You just really, really can't. I think it was so disappointed that they didn't take on more fan voice and more fan opinion. Saying that, though, I think a lot of the fans should take a lot of the blame, not for the result. Look, the Tifo, the fan reaction, things like that, social media conversation, that's not the reason we lost the game. PSG were brilliant in that first 30 minutes. We didn't capitalize on the moments that we did have. But I think the way that some of our fans are just in the stadium on nights like this was incredibly disappointing. We saw fans leaving at the 80th minute, and normal circumstances, I would not care. You've paid for your ticket, do what you want with it. This was our biggest night at home since 2009. And since the Man United semi-final. It's only the second time Emirates had seen a European semi-final. Only the third time in our history, Champions League semi-final, I should say. Only third time in our history we've been in the Champions League semi-final at this stage. If there's one night to just stay until the very end, even if we got battered, clap the boys off, because we've had a fantastic run up till this point now. So to see fans leaving at 80 minutes was incredibly disappointing. To hear that fans had their allocation from red and silvers taken away. Look, the club were taking pelters for it. I don't think there's anything they could do about it. UEFA get an extra percentage at this stage of the season. It's their competition. They give it to influencers or whoever it is. The club, I don't think, had any say in it. But to know that fans sort of in red and silver membership had theirs taken away in order to give it to them was incredibly disappointing. But one thing I do want to say about just the fans in general, I think, look, the comment there, I want drums and flares. I completely appreciate that. I just don't think it's English football culture. I don't think it's in our DNA, so to speak, not only as Arsenal fans. I just don't think that it's something that a lot of English fans, in comparison to European football, where that is absolutely the norm. We can be jealous of it. We can be disappointed. I just don't think it's ever going to be that way in England. And I think the thing that I wanted to discuss mainly is we had on the phone-in show, someone come in and say they want Ashburton Army to have more people. They want Ashburton Army as an ultra section in one particular place. For me, logistically, and the realistic option of it is it's not feasible. It's not something that can happen the way that our stadium is constructed. And the reason I say that, FK, and I'll put it to you and Yem, sit behind the goal downstairs, North Bank, block 9 or whatever it is. You guys are there week in, week out. Let's say, hypothetically speaking, Ashburton Army get a bigger allocation and the club want them to be there. That's their spot. You're not going to be happy with moving to wherever they're going to put you elsewhere in the stadium. That's been your seat for 5, 10, 15, however many years. That's your spot. You've grown to know people. In order to logistically make that happen, I just don't think, unless we were to move stadiums and start it all from scratch again, I don't think that's something that is going to be possible. And then saying that, I don't think it is fair and reasonable for Arsenal fans to expect one particular fan group, just because they're louder than the others and they do a good job themselves. I don't think it's fair or reasonable to expect one fan group only to get more tickets. We have Arsenal fans Ireland, we've got Arsenal fans Trinidad, we've got the Jamaican group, who all fan groups get an allocation of a percentage of tickets, whether it's 1, whether it's 10, whether it's 20. I don't think we can take away from people who are either red members, silver members, to give it to Ashburton Army or whatever group. I don't think you can take away seats from season ticket holders to have that ultra section that people want. So I do think that some fans in general just need to kind of taper their expectations a bit. But saying that, on this night in particular, I thought it was incredibly flat. I know that the goal came early. I was disappointed in our reaction to it. I felt a lot of fans gave up after the VAR decision. In the start of the second half, it just was flat again, didn't get back up. And I think we, as season ticket holders, we're lucky enough to be there as season ticket holders, kind of week in, week out. We need to hold ourselves accountable, because everyone kind of blames tourists, day trippers, blah, blah, blah. Every game, 75% of that stadium is Arsenal season ticket holders. And we've got to do more ourselves.
I've got a couple of different takes on that. I think the first sort of 15 minutes in the build-up to kickoff, I thought was unbelievable. I thought it was spectacular. I thought it was deafening. And I would say, having been at the ground earlier than I've ever been to the Emirates Stadium, the build-up and the excitement and the noise before the rooftop banner was unfurled was, I thought, louder than Real Madrid. I agree with you. I think the plastic bags that we sort of held up for that red-white effect was absolutely extraordinary. I like the light shows. I think they're a bit cheesy for like cup games or, Premier League games, but on a Champions League night under the lights, I mean, come on, sensational. I disagree with I can't remember how you phrased it, but something along the lines that like the club didn't sort of try. Like the rooftop Tifo, in theory, is a great idea. I think the execution was awful. And even if the design is so vanilla, as you guys can see on the screen there on that right-hand side, it's just a white cannon on a red flag. I mean, it's nothing as sinister as something like that, right? But like the design was so basic, but they just messed it up. It looked like a shower curtain. It wasn't tight and stretched, and it was nothing intimidating. And this is, it's one of the regular Latte firm viewers sort of did something maybe on AI and just sort of pinged it across and said, FK, why can't we have this? And Emirates will never be hell, but you kind of understand the sentiment, right? It could have been something so much more serious, like "Welcome to the Arsenal" or "We are the Arsenal," or anything, just something a bit more intimidating. And I thought the club really fumbled the bag, and I want to see Arsenal work with supporter groups and support them in trying to make the atmosphere bigger. I will close on this. I completely agree with you in that I don't think logistically it is possible to allocate a section of the ground without eating into season tickets, or maybe there are blocks that are used for general sale most games, or member sale, but you're going to eat into the membership, and as it is, it's very difficult for members to get games. I think the Silvers had a 13% success rate in the ballot, and the Reds had a 3% success rate. And we have got tens of thousands of Red members who pay good money every year to renew their membership, and 3% of them are getting the chance to go to the biggest games. And let me tell you, it's those Red members that go to all the shit games that nobody wants to go to because they're the only ones that have tickets left over. So the club has to look at ticketing and how they reward and incentivize. I mean, we've been talking about the Champions League final. I mean, if we get there, big if. Yeah, Wally is a great example. He's been to 55 away games in the last 2 years, and he couldn't get a ticket for Paris because you had to go to 3 European aways this season. It's mental. The guy has followed the club up and down the country in 2 phenomenal seasons. He spent so much money and time in following the club, often going to away games on his own because he hasn't got anyone to go with. No one's got that level of points. And yet he couldn't go to Paris. He'd booked his travel, booked his accommodation, couldn't get a ticket. I think things like that are really terrible. Slightly different question for you. I mean, look, we can talk about Tifos, and we can talk about how the club could make a more concerted effort. And, I agree with you, Wayne, also in that fans need to take a bit more responsibility. What I would say on this occasion, the hype was incredible. And then the Tifo was unfurled, and it was a little bit like, we saw everyone in front of the North Bank going, oh, that doesn't quite look right. Everyone behind the North Bank saying, come on, I can't see anything. Like I want to see the Champions League ball in the middle. I want to see the smoke and the flares and the PSG fans going nuts. I want to see on screen the players lining up and the Champions League music. Like we just saw that red cloth. We couldn't see anything. And then, of course, you had the moment's silence for the Pope, which, look, I don't want to offend anyone. Is football the sort of platform that we should be recognizing and celebrating things like this? Is that perhaps the right time to do it just before kickoff in what is arguably one of the biggest games in both clubs' seasons? And it kind of just flattens the mood a little bit. And then, of course, Wayne, PSG, they fly out the blocks, they score early, and that really takes the wind out of our sails. And it would have knocked us for 6 because we've just gone in there smashing PSV, smashing Real Madrid. The hype, the confidence, we went there chest beating. This is our gaff. We're going to do you tonight. And PSG completely just pulled the rug from under our feet, and we just couldn't recover. And they outplayed us for the following 15 minutes. We couldn't get 23% possession. I said, didn't I? The first 20 minutes. Things like that don't help. So yeah, it was flat. And we didn't recover. And we've seen much better atmospheres at Arsenal before. Yeah. So the question to you is, what can we do, or what can the club do, and what can the fans do to make sure something like that doesn't happen again?
A very hard question, because there are a number of different demographics of fans within Arsenal, which we all know about. Everyone who goes to Arsenal can see the different demographics. You have your hardcore supporters who are like the Ashburton Army, who have, they're trying to be like an ultra group almost and try to be very enthusiastic supporters, and they're probably the most vocal. You then have the long-term season ticket holders who have been there for a long time and are very passionate. We know a number of them. We ourselves have been there for years, and they're very passionate supporters, and they support the club. And we've seen it in our end as well, that even when we were down against PSG, a lot of our friends were going, come on, Arsenal, come on, Arsenal. and they sing their voice out as much as they can. Then you've obviously got this group of international fans. I'm not saying that there was a vast majority there, but there certainly were international fans, groups of fans, corporates, UEFAs, etc., who were not as invested. They came to see the match, but not invested. That causes a problem for me. I thought as well, to both of your points, the Ashburton Army, as usual, very loud. I thought the North Bank as well was quite loud. We've got as well in the corner, there's a good group of supporters who make a loud noise as well. I think that's really good. The East and West stands, I have noticed, are probably the least vocal. They are, in generally, and I'm not criticizing them. It's a game by game basis. But that night, it did seem like the East and West stands were pretty much dead. And it's really hard to put a finger on what you can do to improve that, because the team have to do something about it. It's partly the team. They have to, but Arsenal fans in general do have to have this mentality of, we should be back in this. This whole thing, I think we were too hyped on our own what we can be because of the Real Madrid result. And again, not understanding we are playing the top tier. You're playing the best. So when we went a goal down against PSG, it was like, oh God, this is it. It's all over. That's it. Tie's over. We're done. And everyone fell flat straight away. Whereas what should be happening is getting up, being louder, and being more, involved in it to cheer the team on. And a few groups did that, and that's great. But the vast majority, as we all know here, who are inside the stadium, we were blessed enough to be inside the stadium. It was dead because they were in shock. They were expectant. It's this false expectation. We're not being. I don't want to be critical, but when your team is down, you should be even going harder. You should be saying, you should be cheering more, etc. We as Arsenal fans don't do that very well. It's only happened in the last couple of years with Mikel Arteta where it started to happen a little bit more. But again, it's kind of an up and down thing where we do it in some games, but then we fall flat again. There's a lot of expectation versus reality, and where we can't handle going behind to certain teams. And this game again was a hyped up one where we thought, okay, we can do something against PSG. But when PSG came out flying out the blocks, and then first 30 and they looked so good, and then they scored the goal, we thought that's it, game over, all done. And a lot of fans probably in their mind went, that's it, the tie's over, we're out of Europe. Despondency, the usual Arsenal negative spiral happens. I don't think there's an easy answer to this, Faisal, because you're going to have to overcome a lot of issues in terms of the demographic of the fans there, the number of international tickets, and I can't comment. I can only go with what I see in our blog, and there are a couple of them. And it's unfortunate because some of them are really hardcore fans and some of them are very good fans. But there's also those who just come to see a game, and they paid the price for this game, which was quite high. We know how much some people paid for this, but there are always those who are going to be willing to pay. But are they true fans? A lot of them aren't, from what I've seen.
But saying that, yeah, I don't think that's only like an international or a broad fan issue. Because in where I sit, and obviously you guys know, I sit in club level. We've got our regulars in our section as well that are season ticket holders. That's the only way I could get a season ticket. For our section, there are a number of regulars who have their name on the season ticket that pay for the season ticket year in, year out. But I will only see them at the Real Madrid game. I will only see them at the PSG game. I'll only see them at home to Spurs. The rest of the other games, they either put it on ticket exchange to someone who wants to be there, not just for a glamour tie. They want to be there regularly. And I think there's something changing for next year. I don't know whether it's the all-season ticket holders or and I could be completely wrong, where your ticket itself has to be used 10 times out of 18 or something next season, which is an increase and something that needs to be implemented. And I think that could go some way to at least keeping that atmosphere, because if you're someone who owns and pays for the season ticket and you only put it on ticket exchange and you only show up against PSG, yes, you're a fan because you pay for the ticket, but I don't expect you to know the regular chants. I don't expect you to know how things are at what times during the game and who we're singing for and stuff like that. I think you're just kind of there for the spectacle of the big glamour tie in this game. And that was the case against PSG. There are a bunch of faces that I only see at the start of the season because it's the first game, or at the end of the season because it's the last game.
But this comes back to that whole demographic. It's a multitude of issues. It's not just, oh, we're missing, we're not cheering enough, etc. There's a bunch of demographics, as you just rightly pointed out, Wayne. Different situations, different contexts of fans coming in, and the issue is compounding into this lack of atmosphere, especially in this big game. But if we take the Real Madrid game, I think that was slightly different in that we started better, if I call it that. So partly on the pitch, it kind of drove the fans on. But the PSG game, from minute 1 to minute 30, they were the better team by the far. And I think that affected some fans' perception of, oh, that's it. They're just a better side. We've arrived. This is what the standard we weren't hoping for, and then we're getting beaten, etc. It's that kind of mentality that I think doesn't lend itself very well when you're an Arsenal fan.
There's a comment there, FK, that I don't agree with in the chat. Prawn Sandwich Brigade. I am one of those, and I am as good a fan as any. So don't come for our Prawn Sandwich Brigade. FK is Prawn Sandwich Brigade.
Hey, prawn sandwich brigade and proud is football heritage. What I would say is that, look, it's a joint effort from both players and fans to make it a raucous atmosphere. The game's got to be going your way. The players have got to be putting in the effort, and the fans have just got to be loud and jubilant. And like I say, I think going into kickoff, it was deafening, absolutely extraordinary. And but I think the club missed a trick. The red and white was phenomenal. It's the whole ground, sensational. The light show. I don't even know if we had fireworks. I know there were flares.
No, we had a few bits, but the one thing I will say as well, the club did miss a beat on the. When the Real Madrid game happened, they had the light show was backed off with a quite loud track, and they didn't really do it for this one. It was kind of it fell apart. I think the thing was the Tifo seemed to be the whole centralization of their efforts, and it kind of, when that fell apart, it really made the whole thing feel quite flat. I think they just need to be a bit more. You have to work with the fan groups. You have to work with Red Action. Red Action have been there for years, and they give good ideas. And it as one person said, it felt too corporate. It felt like we're just doing this for the show, and rather than a Tifo is a fan-inspired graphic to instill fear in the other team, to show that. Doing this one just felt like, hey, we're doing this as a corporate exercise.
It should be fan-led. Right, I feel like we've talked about the atmosphere enough. Let's go into the last sort of 15, 20 minutes of the show and look ahead to Bournemouth. But before we do that, Ash has said, evening, lads. Ødegaard, uncomfortable conversations must be had. So let's talk about the skipper now. I'm going to warn you, this is quite painful, because I've got some stats that are coming up. A lovely graphic here from You Are My Arsenal. If you don't follow Michael, get involved in socials. He wrote a great piece today. Look, chat, we know Martin Ødegaard has not had his best season. He's some way off form. I want to hear your thoughts. What do you think is up with Martin Ødegaard? Are you sympathetic towards whatever it is you think he's going through? Do you think he can turn it around? And let's also be honest. We have good memories. We are Arsenal Football Club. We don't treat our players like that. We know what he is capable of. He's had one or two extraordinary seasons with us. So the talent is no doubt there. But this season, he is off it. And Yem, I want to come to you first, because a couple of years ago, you were quite scathing after that opening fixture away at Palace. I remember we were doing the post-match phone-in, and you said he's got to step up. And then over the next 2 years that came, he was phenomenal. And we're going to bring up some stats courtesy of Sky Sports in the next couple of slides. But just start us off, Yem, with your overall thoughts on the skipper, because for me, I'm beginning to feel really sorry for him. And I'm beginning to get a little bit concerned about his well-being, but I'll elaborate further. Yem, you go first.
I think there are legitimate concerns. It's not over a couple of games. This has been pretty much since he got the injury, about a quarter of the way season through. Since he's returned, he has looked a shadow of the player. The micro movements, the jinking to get through players is not there. He looks. The There are a couple of factors probably affecting this. I think there is a mentality and a physical issue. I think there is an injury being carried. I think the club are not really disclosing that, and I think there is a rumor he needs an operation at the end of season. If that's the case, then there is that part of it. But there is a I've heard through the grapevine, and this may not be true, etc. And we don't know the truth, that he is mentally suffering. There is something there and it's clear on the pitch. He is suffering with something. He's not at the level which he was. And to your point, Faisal, about I was scathing a couple of years ago because he was, I thought he didn't do enough for his ability. And then he proved me wrong by scoring goals, leading the press, being phenomenal. And in some games, he was absolutely unplayable. Has he done that this season? No. There is no game which he has been back to the level that we expect him to. And that's really scary in that if the club have been negligent and rushed Martin Ødegaard back because they feel he's so important that he needs to be there, or he's pushed himself and he's playing through an injury, which was, again, we don't know the ins and outs, but it just feels like physically he is not there. There is something holding him back. He's lost something, or there's something he cannot unlock because he's clearly struggling to keep up with the pace of a game. In the game we've just had, I think he was pretty much non-existent. I didn't see anything of note.
Terence Tibbs says ghost of a player. Tim Merrick says Martin doesn't look well. It's sad. He needs 3 months off and some sandwiches. Not captain material, says Terence Tibbs. And Kenny says, FK, I think Ødegaard is going through something. Something is wrong. I don't know if he's carrying something, and he looks lean due to sickness or something. And Brandtail Zorus is asking, is he physically not well? Look, listen, we're just speculating, right? I just want to get that absolutely straight. None of us know anything about, obviously, Martin Ødegaard's personal life or circumstances. We have to assume the club knows best, but lots of us have watched Martin Ødegaard over the last few years. We three have the privilege of watching him or having watched him every week live, and there are things that you pick up when you're watching players live in terms of like their work rate off the ball, their general connection with the fans, and their attitude and their work rate and all that sort of stuff. And Wayne, I want to bring up the first slide, which kind of just talks through, look, he's expected to be our creator. And this is nabbed off Sky Sports, but Martin Ødegaard's goals and assists per 90 over the last 5 seasons. And you can see that, obviously he started slow at Arsenal, very slow. 2020, 21, of course, we were a team in transition, 8th in the table, all that sort of stuff. He had 2 exceptional seasons, 22, 23 and 23, 24, when we were going for Premier League titles. This season, though, he's back to those early year levels, and that is a big problem. What do you put it down to?
Genuinely, I just think that this is the kind of player he is. Not in the sense of his quality. That we both think that he's quality, but I think that though the season there where he's up at 0.63, he equaled or broke the record for goals scored from a midfielder in that season. I don't think he's that kind of player. Like, he's not a Frank Lampard that is going to score you 15 goals every season. He's got the ability to do more than he's doing now. I don't think his performances have been anywhere near good enough for not only his standard, but for any sort of Premier League standard, especially for a team that are wanting to go as far in sort of Europe and in competitions as we want to. But I don't think he was that type of player consistently. I think that was one season where it worked and it worked well, but I never saw him scoring sort of 15 goals per season every season. To me, he's just not that type of player. I think I feel as though we've rushed him back from the injury. I don't think he's fully recovered from that. I think we don't really look after him properly. I don't think it's only an Ødegaard issue. I don't think we look up, and before the injury especially, I don't think we looked after Saka properly. I don't think we looked after Kai Havertz properly. I don't think we've looked after Martinelli properly in the past, and other players in the squad. So I also think he's very reliant on other creativity around him, and you get the best from him when he's kind of got people to bounce off of. And this season, really, the only player he's got to bounce off of is Saka, and Saka's been out for the majority of the year. He shouldn't really be the main creative source in our team. but we have no other creativity anywhere, really, especially in midfield. So we're not platforming him, even if he was performing well, we're not platforming him to the best of his abilities. And it also doesn't help that he doesn't have anyone to come in, and if he is replaceable, or if he is playing poorly, we've got a 17-year-old Nwaneri who, to me, looks shattered himself. Like, this is his first season at the very highest level. He's played a lot of football at 17. I think he's looked leggy for the past sort of at least month to 6 weeks with Nwaneri. So I think that we need to do more to platform not only Ødegaard better, I think we need to platform Saka better, because although he's phenomenal, I think he can go up another level. But he's doing so much because he's taking on 3-4 players before he be able to get a goal or assist. I think we need more creativity around Martin Ødegaard. And I also think that a lot of the expectations of Arsenal fans on what Martin Ødegaard is, I think, are just based off of that 0.63 season, when, to me, that was the one, and not that was the outsider. It was just that one season. I just don't see him as that kind of player. But saying that, he does have to step up. He has to play better. If you are being selected, you have to do more. But at what stage is it not about Ødegaard, and at what stage is it about Arteta? Because if your players are not playing up to standard, at what stage do we stop picking them? At what stage does he bring him out of the limelight? And if he is mentally not doing the best for whatever reason, and like you said, that's just speculation, why are we still throwing him out there to the wolves to keep playing him? Like, that's just, to me, that isn't smart planning. But the one thing I will say, though, is on the ball he's been poor. Off the ball, he's still the leader of the press. He's still our structure and our out of possession and stepping up the pitch is largely because of Ødegaard. The difficulty now comes is when he presses, he loses duels way too physical, way too easily. Like, people are just brushing him aside. Whereas previously he was hustling, he was harrying, he was winning the ball up the pitch. Now he's just kind of barged and falling over. That's the concern for me, because physically he just looks as though the smallest little bit of wind would make him fall to the ground.
Can I ask? Someone's mentioned it in the comments. Is the lack of competition a big problem again for Ødegaard? Because we thought Ranieri would be it, but there is no one who we can drop for him. No one's really stepped up into that role to say, I'm the creator, I'm the one who's going to instigate, be the person who's going to take over Ødegaard's role. He's undroppable, seemingly, and that's a problem, isn't it? When you're not fighting for your place. Yeah,
but I think that's the case for everyone, really. I think that's the case for Saka. I think that's somewhat the case for Martinelli. I think that was the case for Havertz, really, up front when he was playing. But you would never have these same questions that we have about Ødegaard. Saka could have a poor game or two, but you knew that he was still physically going to give you everything. He was still had the ability. If the ball was at his feet, he would still take on a player or two and not kind of waste it. Right now with Ødegaard, it's not just about the lack of the. Saka has a lack of competition, but we don't have these questions about him. Like I said, Havertz, he had no competition. He was playing 90 minutes week in, week out. He was still giving 110%. He was missing chances, but he was scoring chances. He was bringing other players into play, and you could question Havertz's ability, and you can question how good he was as a player if you wanted to, like some of our fans did, but you could never question the physical elements of him. You just couldn't. And that was something that we couldn't really question Ødegaard the last couple of seasons. But this year, like, he's just he's just being brushed aside. Like, just thinking back to not the PSG game, but the Palace game, the Crystal Palace game. I know that Saliba was mainly at fault for that, but Ødegaard is just. I know Mateta's a big man, but Ødegaard of last year or the year before doesn't just kind of get brushed aside like that. He at least makes it difficult.
He definitely looks like he's lost a lot of weight, or he's shifted enough weight that he's lost the natural strength that he has. He's not the same player. I also noticed as well, he's not as in the tight spaces. Ødegaard was, when he was at his peak, was phenomenal. And it just looks like he's more scared now to go and ride the challenges and is happy to pass it off and try and avoid that. And I don't know if that's the injury, because obviously when you're injured and you're hampered, you tend to protect yourself a little bit more in that respect. If it's foot related, again, you can understand. I think the club have to be very clear. Look, if at the end of the season we find out that he's again injured, he's got an injury, he's having surgery, which I suspect we may do, then I think questions have to be asked about how Arsenal perceive us as are you starting to take a little bit of the piss with us? Tell us that he's injured. Just let him go. We are understanding enough to say, look, get him fit, because it's detrimental to the team. Look, in some games we're carrying him. The PSG game, we carried him, really, didn't we? And fans will start getting on the backs of players who do that. Naturally, what's happening now, and it's not good for Ødegaard. It's not good for Arteta. It's not good for Arsenal, because he is the captain. Don't get it twisted. This guy doesn't shout or scream on the pitch, but he's the one who is the leader. He is still our leader, and how the fans are treating him is a little bit disconcerting. I understand we have to have a conversation about him. We absolutely do. But don't get it twisted. This is a player who's done well for us over the last couple of years. I think he deserves a little bit more respect than that. I think you have to look at it at the end of season and say, look, what was he carrying? Is he carrying? Is there something there? Because I said it to Faisal during the game. Footballers are expected to be robots, and I've said this multiple times. They're not. They're human beings. Mental, physical. There's stuff that we probably don't know about that he's probably going through, etc. Because clearly there's some weight there. He's not free. He doesn't look free. He looks anguished, etc. So a bit of compassion. We will judge over 2 to 3 seasons. We judged him over, obviously, on one moment in time. Let's be a bit more reserved. Have a look at him. Let him recover. Let him get to the preseason. If we see it next season, then there is definitely a conversation to be had, because you can't keep it long term.
Look, while you guys were talking, I brought up the dribble success rate that Martin Ødegaard is enjoying this season, and he's not enjoying it at all. 40% dribble success rate compared to 77% in his first season. It is an all-time low. It's a sensational headline, of course, but he's not obviously having as much success with his dribbles. And you've made 1 or 2 points, both of you, around sort of maybe courage in going forward, not being able to be as confident in riding tackles, and maybe a bit cautious in the way that he plays. He does those sort of pirouettes where he changes direction a lot more this season than he has sort of last season. But saying that, there is still a good player in him, because we talked about his off the ball work rate. But look at this: most passes leading to a shot per 90 in the Premier League this season, again courtesy of Sky Sports. He is top of the chart. And so on the one hand, I'm like, well, if he had Ben White, and if he had Bukayo Saka, and he had a proper centre forward, not Mikel Merino or flitting in between Havertz, who was run into the ground, and Jesus, who plays 3 games, goes missing 3 games, plays 3 games, goes missing 3 games. If he had a proper centre forward, someone like a Gyökeres, someone like a Sesko, whoever it might be, that's ever present, his numbers would be even better, I feel. But then when I look at him, and this really breaks my heart, guys. And listen, I just want to call out, Terence, I love you, man, but I don't like things like this. Ødegaard is Captain Coward, because I think at some point the club is going to share news about maybe stuff that he's going through, whether it's physically, mentally. I don't want to speculate, but you can just use your eyes. You can tell that something is not quite right. He looks leaner. He looks weaker. He, you can see the cheekbones and the veins in his arms. Like he's never looked so lean before. He's obviously become a dad. He had that 6-week injury layoff in the first half of the season with his ankle, and now there's talk about surgery. He had food poisoning at Christmas. He was sick. He was really sick over Christmas. Maybe there's something there. I don't know. I've heard it on the Arsenal Vision podcast where Elliot speculated around sort of, glandular fever and how that takes ages, months to clear. And to your point, Yem, he is a human being, and I think we need to treat him with a bit more respect than that. I appreciate, football is it's all about winning, and it's all about immediate sort of success. But this is a guy who's served Arsenal Football Club now for 4 or 5 years. He's our club captain. He deserves better than that. And it's getting to the point now, chaps, where I see him on the pitch, and it's upsetting me, like knowing that he's not anywhere near his brilliant best. Because we know just how good he can be. And, Vlad, I think, said it earlier in the chat, his off-the-ball work is still up there. He's still working so hard for the team. Many of you have been very kind about the fact that he is the coach on the pitch and he's Arteta's main man and he's the captain and we can't drop him. I appreciate all of that. But on the ball, something has changed. And if it's confidence or physicality or just dynamism or limited mobility because of his injury or because of something in his mind mentally about that, it could be something to do with becoming a dad. It could be so many other things. We just don't know. But something's not quite right. And I feel really sad. I feel really sad about him, Yen, because I know how awesome he is. And someone sort of made this made me smile from Alex. All of this is setting up for an Ødegaard masterclass in Paris, and I cannot wait. And of course, that is the dream. But my point is, before you sort of interrupt me for like the 100th time, is fucking hell, man. Every week he does the same thing. You can't just wait your turn. You waffle for 10 minutes, and we're bloody rolling our eyes saying, "Come on, Yen, get to the point. Let me have my bit." But I've lost my flow. Right, crack on. You go for it.
No, as you were saying, Faisal, look, this is this kind of reactionary syndrome that we have where we have to go in on a player when he's had a couple of games where, and I appreciate that this season has not been where he is, but come on, guys, give it to the end of season. The club, look, this team has not had a great season, and Ødegaard is not the only one. There are a number of players who have had a pretty terrible season. Get to the end of season, we post-mortem it as we usually do, but you have to look at the longer term. If it is something long-term, as we've just said, then there is a legitimate discussion to have. If we're starting to see the same signs next season, then you have to say, do we still keep him in his role? Because that happens in football. Football is ever-changing. And Mikel will know that. Mikel is not stupid. He's loyal to Martin Ødegaard, but he's not stupid either. He is ruthless as well when he's seen it. We've seen it a number of times. Ramon Ramsdale, one of his early signings, got rid of him as soon as he saw that. So we have to be a bit more reserved. We're not saying that we're saying, oh, he's going to get better. He may not, but at least allow him that kind of space to say, look, I had an injury. I've done my best. He could easily say that, as Faisal said. He could easily say at the end of season, I've had a terrible season. He knows it. He probably knows it in his head. But he is obviously on the pitch trying his best. He's still trying his best. I can see that. He's trying his best, but he is being held back by something. And we'll find out end of season, next season, if that is something systemic or if it's more long-term. If it's one season or if it's more long-term. If it is long-term, then yeah, I do worry for him as a fixture in the Arsenal side, because you can't keep him as a passenger, and he is a passenger at the moment.
Vive Lad says Yembele's interceptions are better than Declan Rice. Don't give him a big head, please. But I mean, just look at the picture on the left-hand side there. I don't think I've seen him as, what's the word? Like, he's almost gaunt, yeah, skeletal. Like, yeah, I mean, you can see that, they say like, when you show your veins, it just shows how lean you are and how low body fat you have. But just look at his cheekbones and I don't know. Look, listen, we're probably miles off. Who knows? Maybe he's just having a bad season. Maybe everything is absolutely fine and he's just in bad form and he's declining as a player. It's possible. Okay, I'm not gonna not rule that out. However, we don't have short memories, man. We know this guy has performed at a level that has been insane over the last, 24, 30 months. He just doesn't quite look right. So hopefully he picks it up. And listen, if there was a way of shutting up your fans, Skip, it's in Paris on Wednesday.
Get him a Gillette. Get him a Gillette for the summer.
Yeah, he's got to shave that beard.
It all went downhill when he grew that beard.
In fact, Skip, if you're watching this, right, somehow, please just get yourself to somewhere and get some biryani in you, shave that beard, and let's go, baby. Let's go to Paris. Let's lay it on them, and I'll see you in Munich. That's what I'm talking about. Right, last few minutes. We have, of course, the Patreon draw coming up. I've got the spin machine ready for anybody who wants to win the Arsenal shirt of their choice this season. We are going to move on to Bournemouth because, lads, whether we care or not, actually, I don't even care. But the Premier League is back this weekend. I'm not even calling it the Barclays anymore. City are at home to Wolves this weekend. Who cares? Villa are at home to Fulham. Who cares? Everton are at home to Ipswich. Who cares? Leicester, Southampton, Arsenal, of course, at home to Bournemouth. I do care about that because I'm taking my little boy for his first ever Premier League game. Brentford at home to United, who will lose their 30th game of the season or whatever it is, but they're apparently having a better season than Arsenal. Brighton at home to Newcastle, who cares? West Ham at home to the Scum, who, of course, are also having a better season. And, of course, had a better Tifo last night, which means that they are obviously a better set of fans. Chelsea, Liverpool, who cares? And Palace, Nottingham Forest, nobody cares. Look, it's back. It's important. Wayne, you've talked about the importance of Champions League football, and we don't want to be looking over our shoulders. As much as we're all looking forward to Paris, this is quite an important game for Arsenal. It's must win tomorrow.
Yes, it is. And I think it's a game really where I know that a lot of fans may not agree with me. I think it's a game that we really have to go strong. Very, very strong. In fact, I think I wouldn't be surprised if maybe Declan Rice sat out because he could do with a breather. And Jurriën Timber was absolutely shattered and really down at the end of that PSG game. But apart from that, I would be considering the full first 11. And the reason for that is because I think firstly we need some momentum going into that PSG game. FK, if I was to tell you that after Dubai we've played 16 matches, all competitions, would you know how many games we've won?
10.
7.
Wow.
7 in 16, all competitions.
It's not good,
playing after Dubai. And normally we laugh and joke about Dubai being the sort of the way to unblock the rest of the season. I know that a lot of our fans will probably not care because obviously we beat Real Madrid, but I think although there wasn't a title race, we could have made it tougher for Liverpool. And I know we've had injuries, but I don't think that the injuries excuse 7 wins in 16 all competitions.
Yeah, you're right.
So I think the fact that this Bournemouth game is must win, not for Champions League, I think we'll finish in the top 5 regardless. Like we could lose every game between now and the end of the season. Top 5? Yeah, you get Champions League for top 5 now.
No, but come on, we're not going to sink that low, surely.
We could do. Manchester City won tonight. They're 3 points behind us.
Do you know, I did not even know City played tonight. Yembele just mentioned it in the chat, and I'm just like, holy shit, yeah, they played. They beat Wolves 1-0.
It's when you flashed up that image, when you flashed up the thing, I was like, huh? City played tonight? Yeah. Because usually our group goes nuts.
Didn't even look at the time, no one cares, but they won. So let's have a look at the league table.
Yeah, they're 3 points behind us. They're 3 points behind us. Newcastle travel to Brighton on Sunday. If we lose to Bournemouth, hypothetically, and Newcastle beat Brighton, they are 2 points behind us, and we have to go to Anfield and then play Newcastle. I'm expecting Manchester City to win all of their games between now and the end of the season.
Oh my God.
That's two teams there that could drop us from 2nd to 4th. In the grand scheme of things, I don't think we finish lower than 4th, but we can't finish. We have to finish 2nd. We can't finish 4th. And then, unless we win the Champions League, of course, if we win the Champions League, we can finish wherever we like. I don't really care. But if we don't win the Champions League and we finish 4th, that has been a monumental failure of a season with injuries or without. So I think Bournemouth is important for 2nd place. We've got the good goal difference, like RM says there, but we don't want to leave it to chance with Anfield on the horizon, with Newcastle coming to the Emirates as well. But more importantly, I think we play better when we're playing, and I know that we've discussed sort of squad rotation, and I know that we've discussed players coming in and out. I think we play better when players are playing every 3 days. Our players, anyway. We seem to get into more of a rhythm, and we seem to play better football as opposed to playing 7 days and a week later with some rest. I think we play better when we've got that consistent pattern. So I'm hoping that we go quite strong and we don't just throw 11 kids out there because the league doesn't matter. I think we need to win this game.
The draws have killed us. 13 draws in the Premier League this season. Someone mentioned, I think it was Trav, who said you've lost 9 games in the league this season. They could finish above us in the league. Big good. I think we're going to beat Bournemouth tomorrow. So let's look ahead to that game and end the show before we do the draw. Team news and predictions, Yembele. What are you expecting tomorrow? Because we all know that Mikel Arteta is a total lunatic and that he's going to go full strength, right? But there are people in the chat who think we should be changing everything. Boston says, not me. I'm resting almost the full squad. Can't risk any injuries with 3 games to go in the Champions League. Well, 2 actually, mate. The league is done. What are you doing, Yem? And I've just to tickle your juices, I've put picture of Tierney and Sterling on there just to kind of sway your mind. Would you make any changes to the lineup as you can
Raheem
see
Sterling.
from Paris?
Raheem Sterling should not even be near that squad at all. Honestly, what a joke of a player. So no, not for me. Timber, I expect will come out for Ben White. I would assume that's the logical one. Lewis Skelly again, maybe for Zinchenko because it's not a massive drop off. It's still a drop off because Lewis Skelly's been phenomenal. It's Calafiori fit or not at all?
I don't think so. I think he's
Arteta said he's not available. No,
great.
Do you know when players are not fit, don't start modelling. Mind you, the photo shoot was probably done ages ago.
He's literally bringing in revenue.
Dude, it just winds you up. It's like, mate, if you're not fit, be at home, eat your salad, and get fit.
No, what you should be saying, FK, is when you're a model, don't play football. Because that's what in Calafiori's case, that's when you're
no, that's a bit.
Get yourself a man who can do both.
No. He's when he's played, he has been quite. The problem is he's just seems like one stretch and he gets injured straight away. I mean, it's been consistent. As much as you want to say Declan Rice will be dropped, I don't think he can do because I think he's too important to the way we play. And if we want to beat Bournemouth, you have to have him in the squad. Thomas Partey should be back in because Thomas Partey, as you guys said rightly, needs the rhythm in his game as well. So he needs to be starting. Ødegaard. I suspect he will play. I don't know if he's going to play the full 90, but that's a question. Marino up top. I think Marino has to go up top. I think he needs to be there. Trossard, I assume, will play for Martinelli, actually. Saka, I think, will start, but will come off probably around the 60-ish minute for Ithwanieri. I think we're trying to get a balance of, as Wayne said, keeping the rhythm in a lot of players, but trying to rotate where we can. So you'll see players come off or come on at certain points. Saka, Martinelli, I assume, will be the ones that you look at. And I'd be very surprised if Lewis Skelly starts because I think Lewis Skelly's been unreal. And I thought against PSG he was probably the man of the match for us. But you do have to protect him. He's still a young player. Because it's a must-win game, given the results and the fixtures, etc., it's kind of sad. The defense is also a big problem for us because we can't rotate out Kivior or Saliba, really. And realistically, you want to rest one of the two at least, but it's not possible. I don't want to see Sterling. I've got love for Kieran Tierney, but I'm not sure that he should start either. I think Bournemouth as well have got very good wingers. That's the other problem. On the wing, Cliver, Semenyo are their main weapons. God, given that as well, Tierney is not exactly who I'd have going up against them either. Miles Lewis-Skelly is still your best defender. It's how much Arteta wants this one and how much he's willing to risk because, Lewis-Skelly's played a lot of games. How much do you run him into the ground? But it's going to be
fair.
reasonably strong.
Lewis Skelly hasn't played that many games. I mean, he's an 18-year-old kid. He's been playing most games since September. He's probably got, 20, 25 starts under his belt? I think he can handle that. But there are players in the team that have played a lot of games and that are going to be key players going into Wednesday. And Wayne, you said it earlier in the show, there is merit sometimes to just keeping players' legs ticking over. You can't go a week at this stage of the season without playing a game. Once every sort of 3-4 days, just because you need to retain that momentum and actually to get back to winning ways would be a nice way to send the squad to Paris. So Wayne, just before I ask for your thoughts on the match and what you would do with the squad and get your score lines, some team news. Thomas Partey obviously comes back into contention for Arsenal after being out with the suspension at the Emirates against Paris Saint-Germain. Neto, as many of you have said in the chat, is unavailable, so he's ineligible to play against, I guess, his parent club. Jorginho has a collapsed lung or a punctured lung thanks to that rib injury, so he may not be playing for Arsenal this season. Ricky Calafiori, of course, has his knock. He's Jesus, Gabriel Magalhaes out for the season. Takehiro Tomiyasu, we know, is out for the year. But Kai Havertz is the one to watch. He may be on a bench at some point soon, perhaps maybe just too soon for tomorrow. Bournemouth, on the other hand, they've got Semenyo, they've got Kluivert, they also have Evan Nilsson, who will be available after his red card against, was it United? Yeah, it was United, wasn't it? That was rescinded because they decided it was a slip. But they do have Luis Sinistera, Unal and Ryan Christie out with injuries. Head-to-head, Bournemouth kept their first clean sheet against Arsenal of the season, in October's 2-0 win, if you remember. Saliba, I think, was red carded, wasn't he, in that game? We've won all 8 of our home matches against Bournemouth in both league and cup in our history, scoring 23 goals and conceding 4 in those 8 games. Paris Saint-Germain, the game in midweek, was our first defeat in 13 games, and we risk losing back-to-back home fixtures in all competitions for the first time in almost 2 years. There you go. There's your sort of head-to-heads and your team news and whatnot. So, Wayne, team tomorrow, what changes are you making? And give us a prediction.
I think Ben White comes in at right back for Timber. I think Partey comes in for Martinelli. And then obviously Marino got up front. You'd go Ødegaard, Rice, Partey, Marino, Trossard, and Saka up front. And then at left back, I think left back will probably play Zinchenko. We've seen Zinchenko play a little bit more than usual recently. I think Miles Lewis-Skelly will probably come on in the second half. Prediction wise, I don't know. I don't like the way we've been playing in the league, especially in that last game against Brentford, where it just looked like we did not care. Like it just looked as though we were all eyes on PSG, and I can imagine that will be the case again. I think it'll be a draw, unfortunately, which will be very annoying because I think this one win, and it should have happened last time out at the Emirates, but one win and you're basically second place secured. We've got the goal difference on our side. There's not really, unless we lose every other game after this one, second should be secure. So I hope we go out and do it, but I do think we'll have one eye on PSG, and I think it will be a 2-2 draw.
Well, we've had a 3-1, 2-1, and a 2-1. Matthew Simpson and Donald coming with score draws, so 1-1 and 2-2. Afsar is having some of the good stuff tonight. Arsenal 7, Bournemouth 0. Maybe that's out of frustration. Trav, who's been great in the chat tonight. Thank you for that. Thank you for your contributions. It's 2-1 to the Arsenal. Ian 2-1. Brantail Zora says 2-2. Vigs, thanks for also your contributions to the show recently and tonight. It says 2-1 Arsenal, Wanyeri and Trossard to score. JG Gunner says Havertz is back in training. Would love to see him get minutes. That is the rumour that he could be back on a bench at some point very, very soon. Wouldn't it be fantastic for him to have some sort of impact in Paris? Terence says either 2-1 to Bournemouth or 2-2 if we play well. Terence, you've had a nightmare tonight, man. Come on, I hope you have a really lovely bank holiday weekend, my friend. Puran Mehra says 2-0 to the Arsenal. Clean sheet would be lovely. JG Gunner says 1-1. Mohammed saying Ben White at right back. That would be great. Saka, Timber, they both need a rest, says Appalash. I'm in trouble, says 1-1, and we will be in trouble if that is the scoreline tomorrow. Mohammed says 5-0 to the Arsenal. Farhan 2-1. Donald 7. Come on, 7-1. What are we doing? What are we doing here? 1-0 to the Arsenal, says Trevor Bibbins. Yembele, give us your prediction.
I'm going for a 2-1 to Arsenal. I'm going to be positive. I agree with Wayne that it's been a little bit concerning our league form, but given that we do need to win this game, I'm hoping that we can, step up a level again, show something for Paris, get that consistency, in our game, and go into Paris in a positive light with 3 points.
That is going to be important. Right, we are going to leave the football stuff there. Yemstradamus says JG Gunner, and Donald says 2-2 is his prediction. 2-2, another score draw. That'd be
what are you predicting for your son's first Premier League game?
I think we'll win. I think we'll win tomorrow. 2-0, 3-1, something like that. I know Bournemouth are a good team. I know they've got a great coach. We're close to Mikel Arteta, good friends. I'm just hoping that, the weather will be kind, the football will be kind, and we just come out unscathed in terms of injuries. I would love Mikel Arteta to rotate. I don't think he will because, like you guys have alluded to, I think he sees this as a serious opportunity to get 3 points on the board and secure at least top 5. Whether we finish 4th or 5th or whether we finish 2nd or 3rd, obviously there's a little bit of prize money in terms of the difference, but actually to qualify for the Champions League is probably what you want. But actually to do the three-peat of second place, no one remembers 2nd, 3rd or 4th. We remember it, and we have to maintain the propaganda, the upward trajectory. Mikel Arteta, what phase is he in? So yeah, that's where we are. 0-0 says Paul James. I would hate that. Imagine that. The trouble of taking my son. and then he doesn't get to see any goals. Oh dear, I'll have to take the tablet with him just in case he gets bored and wants to watch Minecraft or something. There we are. Right, let's get to the main headline act. Let me just go into Patreon and make sure that no one signed up in the last few minutes, because I have, of course, loaded up all the names into our spinning wheelofnames.com. Thank you for that, guys. Right, no additions in the last few minutes, which is great. And if you are a Patreon member, this is a 2-hour epic, says Ian. I've just noticed an hour and 49 minutes. Wow. Yem, you got to talk less, mate. Got to talk less. Always blame it on Yembele. Sorry, man. Gonna get another note, aren't I, in the chat? Oh, I love it. Right, let's share the screen. How does this work? So, tell me, can you guys see that? No, you can't, can you? Hey, there we are. Right. Ladies and gents, boys and girls, I am giving away an Arsenal shirt of a Patreon member's choice. It could be a home shirt, could be a away shirt, could be a third shirt. Or actually, let's spice it up a little bit more. If you are a Patreon member and you already have all 3 shirts, I'm happy to send you an Arsenal.com voucher of the value of a shirt. How about that? That might be better. You might want to decide what you want to spoil yourselves with. This
Convenient are currently doing it while shirts are 40% off.
Well, that's nice. Are they really? Because hey, listen, I was
thinking off in some cases.
I was thinking to get it from my Chinese man. $15, flipping happy. No, it will be Arsenal.com merchandise, ladies and gents, boys and girls, official stuff. I think Raphael was our last voucher winner out in New York, and he spoiled him and his children to some Arsenal merchandise. Right, the names are going round. You might be, those of you that are eagle-eyed and you are Patreon members, you might be spotting your names. Wayne, can you see a name in there? Where is he?
I kind of in
Johnny Wonderling. He was our winner of the Real Madrid ticket. Who else is there? Is it sort of going round? JG Gunner's in there. Dave Guna 73's had Arsenal tickets. I can see Tessie
Hazard the Cat, the legend.
Hazard the Cat, of course. Go into the League Cup game. Sahil Yadav winning the Miles Lewis Skelly shirt. What else is there? Wow, it's going around quick. Laura Pink, I think the very first Patreon member, Laura Pink. So look, the names are all in there. And let's see what we can do. Right. Should we put some music on? Yeah, let's do some music.
Just some cheesy game show music. Something cheesy.
There's nothing. Well, I tell you, there's nothing more cheesier, right, than the music that they use at Champions League finals when they're giving the trophies away. So let's whack that on in the background. One sec. Here we go. Let's do this.
You can tell he's come prepared.
Let's do that. Am I drowning you?
No, you're not drowning.
No, you can
right. You guys can recognize that, right? That is European Cup finals. That is the music they play in the background. Right, here we go. I'm going to spin. It just says click to spin. So let's see which Patreon member is going to win an Arsenal shirt of their choice. Conveniently, 40% off at the Arsenal.com website. Here we go. It's spinning. I don't want it to be Wayne. Please don't let it be Wayne. Oh! Who is that? Harry Warner. Congratulations. Harry Warner is the winner of an Arsenal shirt of his choice. Harry, welcome, my friend. You are the winner of our competition this week. So let me just remove that from the screen. Harry Warner. There we go. And Donald says FK plays a Dale. Some of you, hopefully, are young enough to not remember that. There we are. Right, let's get rid of the music. Genuinely have never heard of this, says Farhan. How have you never heard that music? Honestly. Congrats, Harry. Everyone's sending you some love. Get on with it, said Tim. Sorry, I know it's been a very, very long show. JG Gunner says, I'll take a free shirt. Wheel of Fortune, the music. Yeah, listen, all the chat is really good. Thank you so much. We're going to leave it there. Harry Warner, I will be in touch. If you are not watching, if you're watching on demand, I'll send you a little note via Patreon, and I will send you vouchers to Arsenal.com to go and get yourself some new Arsenal gear. If anybody wants to follow either of these two fine chaps, Yembele is available on X at Verge59, sometimes on TNT, sometimes on YouTube, sometimes on Latte Firm. But Yem, it's been a pleasure to have you, my friend. Enjoy the long weekend. You can't make the game tomorrow, so I will see you at some point.
My nephew is taking my ticket and will enjoy his first Arsenal game. Uncle, it's on Uncle.
Is it on Uncle?
It is on
Oh,
Uncle.
even that, I don't have to pay you. Mate, that's sick.
It's
Oh,
Uncle,
yes.
because Uncle recognizes that Beta needs to go and.
But you just said
enjoy
this
his first
live
game.
on air, and Wayne's our witness. So if you send me that little text saying, by the way, mate, £42.60, yeah, I'm gonna be,
No, texting down 6
I'll be
pounds,
livid.
yeah. That's it.
If anybody wants to follow Wayne Bella, he is available at Wayne's World 20 _ of course, co-host of the Can You Believe It podcast. And when's the next show coming out, Wayne?
It will be out tomorrow morning, looking back at PSG and looking ahead to Bournemouth and Met crying as usual.
Standard behavior. Right. Cheers. Thank you. The chat is still wild. Appreciate all of you. 1,687 of you watching live now. Really grateful. And of course, we'll be back tomorrow evening. Match reaction video. Maybe we'll be back on Monday. Actually, yeah, why not? Bank holiday Monday to look ahead to the second leg, where we'll talk fixtures, we'll talk tactics, we'll talk formations and tactics and whatnot. And I want to see you guys back in the chat. And just a heartfelt thanks to everybody who supports on Patreon. Not about making money, it's just about supporting the channel, the running costs, and anything that I can give back to that community, I would love to. Good therapy, says Terence. Thank you, Terence. Change your mind about Martin Ødegaard. That is all I ask. Look after yourselves. Take care. Bye for now, and enjoy the long weekend.